I'm Allison Jonjak, the Cranberry Outreach Specialist with the University of Wisconsin-Madison Division of Extension. These videos are the on-demand recordings of UW Extension and the Wisconsin State Cranberry Growers Association's virtual brown bag lunch series. These monthly sessions offer growers and researchers a way to share timely and relevant information. We hope you'll enjoy and continue to engage with us.
Hi, I'm Tom Lochner, the Executive Director of the Wisconsin State Cranberry Growers Association. We're excited to be a partner with Extension to bring you research-backed resources, tools, and tips to keep Wisconsin marshes productive and profitable.
So thanks everybody for joining the July session of our Cranberry Virtual Brown Bag. This is the last pre-harvest brown bag session, since for August we expect to see everybody who's able to join us at the field day and trade show on August 10th at the Cranberry Research Station. So as we are in this kind of peak in the thick of the growing season, we're going to have Dave Jones give us his Wisconsin views, updates, and what he's seeing in the field. A lot of times we have the timing kind of a third on three presenters. This time we're going to have Dave give his introduction. We're going to have then a kind of researcher grower panel where Wade and I will kind of serve as growers, and Amaya Atucha will serve as the researcher, and we're going to ask questions about how to manage nutrition if you've had physical damage of your vines, for example, from hail. And that's going to take a little longer, and we're going to encourage a lot of questions from the audience in that one. And then finally, Amaya and I will move off to a final topic on frost protecting berries versus frost protecting plants. So I expect this to be a lot of really good material. I will give a couple of housekeeping thoughts, which are keep yourself muted unless you are asking a question. If you have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself to ask the question, or you can type in the chat a question either broadly to the whole audience, or if you have a question you want me to ask anonymously, send the question to Allison and I will ask that question on your behalf. We have transcripts, and if you don't see those, you should have a little drop down that lets you add live transcripts. And we're happy to have your video on or off depending on your own personal bandwidth. It's always good to see your smiling faces. So with that, I want to give the control to Tom for a minute to give us a quick welcome from the Growers Association.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Allison, and welcome to everybody this morning, this afternoon. We've been pretty busy here at the association with August coming up. It's a busier time of month than normal for us. Of course, we've got the summer meeting on August 10th at the Wisconsin Cranberry Research Station, and we hope all of you will be able to join us there. We've spent a lot of time doing a lot of work to make this year's event a little bit different than ones in the past. The marsh tours will be approached differently. There'll be the traditional marsh tour, but we'll also have tours that will include stops at research sites on the property, and growers will actually be able to get off the bus and talk to the researchers and hear a presentation. So we've moved the mini clinics out to be on the marsh rather than having them inside a tent or a building, and we thought that'd be much more effective to demonstrate to the growers the type of work that's being done there, but also to give growers a chance to talk with researchers in the field. So that's just one of the many changes we've made, but we're real proud at the foundation that of the facility we have there, and we hope all of you can join us. Just to remind that we are still taking applications for the Wisconsin Cranberry Leadership Development Program. So if you know of anyone who may be a good candidate for that, have them get their application in. If they have questions, or if you have questions, feel free to give Alex Skowinski or myself a call about that. And just finally, a reminder, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of August, we're going to be relocating the offices. We're moving. We're staying in Wisconsin Rapids. We're going to be at 3980 8th Street South, Suite 104. But we think we're going to be able to do it seamlessly, but if there's a little interruption of services as far as phones or email, please bear with us. We're going to try and make it go as well as it can. So again, hope everybody's having a good growing season, and we'll turn it back over to you, Allison, for today's program.
Thank you, Tom. Wade, thank you for joining us. And then I will still ask a couple questions of Amaya I know I promised a little bit about frost protecting fruit versus frost protecting berries. If people continue to have questions, whether they're for Dave on any of his topics or for Wade or for Amaya on any of these topics, thanks for that. And we'll click ahead to frost protection of berries versus frost protection of vines. And I know this is a little bit looking forward. Obviously right now we've got both out there, but I had specific questions in especially some places where if I have a bed with a lot of injury and I don't have a lot of fruiting uprights left, how am I frost protecting those beds compared to a normal bed?
Okay, so this is for the spring.
Or I was thinking about like in the fall. Yeah, into fall.
Okay, so one thing to understand is that the way that different parts of the plant are able to cope with freezing temperatures is different. Okay, so we always talk a lot about the buds, and because they carry the fruit for the next year, they're going to carry the flowers. And we talked about how the buds, once they form and the temperatures at night starts getting colder and colder and colder, they'll go to this process and they start adjusting, and they will be able to withstand more and more and more cold temperatures because there's biochemical changes that are happening. There's some sort of dehydration, there's production of proteins that are going to help with cold temperatures. There's changes in the combination of different membranes and lipids that are there. All of them have been developed to be able to withstand the cold in the winter. And so I've always talked about how there's this acclimation, and then they stay very cold hardy, and then they lose their hardiness as the temperatures get warmer in the spring. So those are the buds. The leaves and the more woody parts, what they have as an advantage is that they produce a lot of tissues like bark that have very low water content. They also have those very thick cuticles, and all of that helps so that the ice does not enter into the leaves and into the stems. So that allows them to avoid ice formation, but also they have the capacity to tolerate ice, even though they have some strategies so that no ice forms in them. If ice forms, they also have the capacity to withstand it and recover. Okay? But in the case of fruit is very different. Fruit is not meant to survive the winter. Fruit is meant to be harvested and that's it. Or in a natural bog, that fruit, through the process of freezing, will actually break down and release those seeds for plant propagation, which is basically what those plants are doing in the wild. So the fruit is very different, and it has a low capacity for withstanding cold temperatures. Fruit that is mature, so closer to harvest, they will have more layers of wax. And that is actually making them a little bit less susceptible to frost damage in the fall than fruit that is more immature. So if you take green fruit that doesn't have that layer of wax, that fruit is going to get damaged faster than fruit that is closer to harvest and has more of that wax, because that wax is avoiding the entering of ice into the tissues. Now, there was some really nice work done at the end of the 90s, early 2000s, showing how fruit freezes when there's a frost event in the fall. And I think what everybody thought is that the water that was in the xylem would go all the way through the pedicel and enter the fruit, and then the fruit would freeze from the inside. What actually happens is that those pedicels are not carrying any water into that fruit. Those pedicels at some point start breaking down, and they're not conducing any water anymore into the fruit. And it's through the end of the fruit, so the distal part where what we call the calyx is left, that the ice propagates. So instead of propagating from the pedicel, it propagates from the end to the inside. And that happens when we have a frost event during the fall. And the fruit is going to be able to withstand temperatures, to a point of like maybe 27 Fahrenheit, when it's really full color and all covered with ice. It's not going to freeze. It's able to super cool. But after that, then ice is going to propagate inside, and that's it. It's never going to get hardier. That's the hardiest that it's going to get, and that's it. So by the time that we harvest that fruit is much more resistant to frost event than if you were to have a frost event, for example, with the picture at the stage that they are right there, those berries that are green. So there's a mechanism of protecting it. But again, they're never going to be as the leaves or as the buds that even as the temperature continues to get going colder and colder and colder, they keep adjusting. That is not going to happen with the fruit.
That makes perfect sense. We're getting close to the top of the hour again, so I want to take a moment to get questions from anyone in the audience. If there's any other things that you would like to add, Amaya, or Dave or Wade, if you have any other observations over the course of the presentation that jogged any new thoughts to mind, I'm happy to hear any of those.
Everybody's so quiet.
I know. I've had quite a few direct questions today, so it could be that people are in mostly learn rather than converse mode. But I do appreciate Wade jumping on in the converse format here to talk about what he's seen. And I want to thank Dave for sharing all of his thoughts, and of course Amaya as well for joining me for well over the average. Like, would you talk for 15 minutes? You know, you've been on for nearly the whole hour here, so I definitely appreciate.
Well, everybody knows that I don't have a problem talking.
And I think this is the most key season as people are starting, finishing, or in the middle of their fertilizer programs. Those reminders of how to watch vine growth, both in terms of color and in terms of length, to help make those choices, to help their buds harden off and form next year's blossoms. Any other thoughts? We're very glad to hear. But that's about the cap of what we've got to present today, I guess. Is there? We talked about, just for a quick recap, doing smaller doses more frequently, even though that can be a pain. And of course, gas prices are creeping up, equally as fertilizer prices are, although I guess it's gotten a little bit better, but it is going to be worth it to have the flexibility to stop making applications when your vines are ready for you to stop. And I guess that classic reminder that people that have higher organic matter content in their soils versus if you have pure sand, if you've got higher organic matter, especially if you have hot days, the nitrogen conversion in that organic matter is going to contribute too. So if you're in peatier soils, you already know this, but notch that back one notch more. With that, I guess we've made it to 1 o'clock, and I know everyone has a lot going on, whether you are about to do your first couple of passes of control of flea beetle. I hate to hear how early that's getting started, but I can let everyone head off into their Fridays. Just for quick reminders, hope to see everybody at the Mini Clinics on the Marsh on the Summer Field Day and Trade Show. That's August 10th at the research station, and Alex has all the information about that. Yeah, looking forward to a wonderful remainder of the growing season here. Everyone go ahead and send questions whenever you have them. I'm always glad to hear from you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you.